Excited to have my friend Toni Shiloh with us today. Toni writes the most fun contemporary romance, and I love the sense of community that she brings to them. So, Toni, do you want to tell people a little bit about yourself and the books that you write?
Sure, I would love to. So I write Christian contemporary romances. Sometimes I write in the first person, like I did in my Faith and Fortune series. Most of the times I write in the third person because I just love getting in both the hero and the heroine's heads. And I had a book released today on paperback.
Oh,
So
congratulations!
thank you. So excited about it.
So, tell us about this new book. What's it all about? Who's the character? Is it part of another series? Tell us all the stuff.
So it's my first love inspired book. You may see it on shelves.
Yes, it's
Super
such a cute
excited.
cover.
Oh, I love the cover. Like they hit it out the ballpark for me with this cover, totally. It's a friends to more slash marriage of convenience story, because they're like one of my two favorite tropes. So I had to throw them in together. But basically, Omar needs help with his two kids to take care of them. And Trinity just got laid off and she needs medical insurance because she's a type 1 diabetic. So he makes
Oh,
the suggestion of getting married.
all right. And how does that, oops, sorry. And how does that work for them? Because it's one of the things that makes me nervous about writing a marriage of convenience is you get all this conflict. I mean, it's like this breeding ground for all kinds of fun things to happen. So do you make it easy on them? Do you make it complicated? What do you do?
Yeah, I don't make it easy on them because that would be boring, right? But it's fun because they're best friends, so they have to find that common ground. Like, do they go in with this as they're going to expect more, or do they just want to stay friends, keep it status quo? And they're both pretty adamant that yeah, they're never going to fall in love again. So of course, I have to throw those little feelings in here and there, and
Yeah.
then you add the two little girls to up the ante, and have scenes where about does she get to be called mommy, and you just kind of get all the feels in there.
Yeah. There's something about when we add kids to stories that just, I don't know, it seems to engage emotions more and make people really vested in the story. And so, hey, Kristen and Mary, thanks so much for joining us. And I knew it was your book birthday, but I feel like I should have balloons or something, especially, I mean, your first Love Inspired, that's a big deal. So, what was it like working with the editors and just becoming part of such an established line of books and authors?
It was amazing. It's one of those kind of pinch yourself moments because like I've worked with editors before, but it's a different feel because usually I've already I already know how my book's going. So usually the editor is just to clean anything up. Or in this case, I had to do a bunch of revisions, and that was painful at times. But no, my editor, she was completely awesome to work with. And I could see after a while, like each revision request she made all made sense. And then the other authors of Love Inspired, they're so awesome at encouraging you, welcoming you, celebrating you. I've seen a lot of them share my post today. So it was really awesome to join the family.
And that's one of the things that I love about working with a publishing house is it's not just you, because you write amazing books, but all of a sudden there's this team around you. There's other authors, there's editors who are as vested in your book as you are because they want to invest in you and they want you to succeed so that they can succeed. And so
Right.
was that was it a fun change or did it meet your expectations? Was it, I mean, how did it feel to kind of step into that? Was it weird or did you go like, oh, this is what I've been working towards?
I think it's all of those, right? Um, my emotions were kind of up and down like a roller coaster. So it's great. I was definitely what I was working towards. But then it also feels a little weird because I've been working by myself for, a lot of my other books. Now I have someone else's opinion to weigh in. So sometimes it felt a little weird. I was like, I don't know how to handle this. But then I
Yeah.
think for the most part, it was just I don't have to do this alone. Like I don't have to do every single thing, worry about every single detail. I didn't have to do the cover. I didn't have to do like all of that. So
Although
that
the cover sheet they make you fill out is pretty detailed.
it is. I was not expecting that.
And it's good because they always come up with really eye-catching, and your cover is adorable. That, I mean, it always makes you think of a picnic and gives me that kind of that cozy, sweet, romantic feel.
Right.
But yeah, there's a lot that goes into those behind the scenes. And this is not your first book. You've written a lot of really great contemporary romance. So what number book is this for you?
So I should have counted. I
I've lost track. I think I'm always like, I think book 35 or 36. I don't know.
I think it's 16. I think.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
knew you were pretty prolific. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's yeah, I definitely I don't feel prolific because like people say that a lot. Because some days I feel like I'm writing really slow and maybe it's just my expectations. But yeah.
That's awesome. So you set your books literally all over the country. The couple I've read, one was in New York, and then it was in Denver, and then it was somewhere else. And then, I mean, how do you do the research for those?
Uh,
Or are you one of those who's like, well, I'll just kind of create this? Because there's kind of two camps when it comes to writers: those who are really sticklers for the details, and then those who are like, it doesn't really matter as long as it's a good story and people can picture what I need them to picture. So where kind of do you fall in that?
that's a good question. I like that. A mixture. I would say I'm a healthy mixture because sometimes I create a fictional town so that I don't have to stress about the details,
Yeah.
but I still want to be able to point out real places around the area so that people know I did do the research in that area. Because even if I don't put them in an actual place and I make it up, I still do the research of what it's like in that area, what the houses look like. I'm all over Pinterest, like pinning
Yeah.
things, make sure it looks authentic so that when I describe it, I bring that feel into the stories.
And I think readers appreciate that. So, for those of you who are watching, feel free to drop comments or questions in the box because we'd love to respond to those and see what you guys think. As readers, what do you like? Do you like a setting where you're like, I've been there and I can picture this exactly? Or do you like to kind of fill things in? Because I know with characters, again, there's kind of this dichotomy of, I'll never forget reading Tim Downs, who wrote some great suspense probably 10 years ago now, but the descriptions would take like a paragraph of one person's, out exterior. And it was amazing because you could completely picture it. And I tend to go for well, they've got kind of light hair that goes to here, and they have this kind of style for clothes. And then you can fill in the rest. You've got an imagination. Where do you kind of fall in there?
I'm probably the first part. I like the details because usually I already pick out who my characters look like. And so I want to be able to translate that into the story. But I also try not to go too detailed because I know everyone sees the character differently. Like even if I had a person in mind, they'll still be like, oh, I was picturing this person. And I'm like, that's not at all who I was thinking.
So I love to use Pinterest as a place like you do to capture, here's the house they live in, here's what they look like, maybe here's the office building I'm, building. I'm kind of riffing off of with creating, where like in Lethal Intent, where what praise Sequoia looks like, or for my next series, I found this adorable little house out in Hamilton, Virginia,
Awesome.
that is where my heroine lives, and it's just adorable. And it was on the market, but I've learned you have to save every photo because once it comes off the market, you can't get those photos again.
Yes.
And so, some of those little tricks, but then I like to make them available because they're secret when I'm writing, and then I make it available when the book goes live. So people, if they want to, can see what I envisioned or what my heroine's wearing, or, things like that. But you don't have to. So do you do that? Do you kind of create these boards on Pinterest where you're capturing that? And then like, here, readers, if you're going to read my book for a book club, here's the board where you can go see, who I would have imagined for the characters or things like that.
Yes, I do everything you said. It's like you were in my brain. That's awesome. Yeah, I do the characters, I do the outfits, the houses, any particular building that I had in mind. Uh, for my Faith and Fortune series, for the Price of
Yeah.
Dreams, I pinned YouTube videos of ballet dancing. Like,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah,
What a great
so
idea.
definitely the person who goes crazy with the boards.
Well, and when I write World War II, I do that so people can see how much of what I'm putting in the book is real, that it's well researched and these are real events and things like that. Hey, Linda, thanks for joining us. And so it's just fun because to me, I know some people will have like the physical board where they've gone through magazines and they've cut stuff up, and I'm like, I don't want that clutter. And
Right.
so I put it on a Pinterest board. I used to use OneNote, and then I got a Mac and OneNote didn't work on it. And so Pinterest kind of became this way to capture it so I wouldn't have to keep going back. Or with Lethal Intent, it was all the links to the FDA website on how many trials you have to have and what happens here. And here's what a CAR T cell, whatever, looks like. And so, you could put some of that research and then the character development and things like that. So, who's your favorite character that you've written? If you had a heroine that you were like, if people could read one of my books, this is absolutely the book that they should start with.
Oh, that's a good question. Um, it would definitely be Tori and The Truth About Fame. I just
Okay.
love that story so much. Probably because she's a little snarky, sassy, but she also has a past and a vulnerability that she's hiding behind all that sass and snark. And then also because her hero is Marcel Fox, and he's like my favorite hero I've written, even though I didn't even go inside his head. So definitely.
Oh, that's fun.
But I would tell people to read book one first.
So, do you think that Marcel's your favorite hero maybe because you didn't get in his head? And so you're just seeing him through her eyes?
Oh, I like that question. Yes, that actually might be, yeah,
Yeah, because when you normally in romance, we write the heroine and the hero's point of view. And
right.
so sometimes when you climb deeply inside their skin, you start going, oh, here's your warts. You're nice, but I see all your problems and your issues. Like, I
Right.
wonder if just because you're just seeing him through the heroine's eyes,
Yeah,
it
I
gives you
think
the distance to go, man, you're hot.
basically probably because I didn't have to worry about his warts or anything like that. Like, yeah, that's a really good, I never would have thought about that. I like that.
That's what I love about this is just you kind of start seeing people's process. And so for those of you who are watching, I'd love to know if you've read any of Linda's, I'm looking at Linda's name there, any of Toni's books, and if so, if you have one that you would recommend, because the couple that I have read I really enjoyed. I Because there was I can see the cover, I can't remember the gal's name. So I read a couple of from the name series, I think the Fame and Fortune, and then the Christmas novella, and I loved that one. That was so sweet. And your heroine in that one,
Which one
I
did
just
you
loved.
read? Then which
The
Christmas?
Something Borrowed, the series the
Okay.
collection that just came out this Christmas, and I just loved what you did with your heroine in that one because
Yeah.
she wasn't, she had real issues and challenges, and yet I just wanted to sit down and have coffee with her.
Yeah, she was I don't want to say fun to write because there was, like you said, she had a lot of real challenges and issues, but I did have a lot of fun writing her story, probably because Reggie um, made
He
it
was awesome.
easy. That's what my critique partners kept saying. They're like, I think he might be my favorite hero because they said he was so sweet. And I think that's what made it fun is that he cracked jokes where I didn't expect him to crack jokes. And it kind of made me
So
laugh as much as the heroine did.
that is awesome. And when I was reading him, I was like, he has so much of kind of that love of Christ. He was just such a good model for that. And I love that in stories. And Stacy's like, yep, I loved Reggie too. So Kristen hasn't read one of your books, but you're on her list. So which was that series that you were like, here's where you should start?
The Faith and Fortune.
Okay.
So the first
Yes,
book
I
is
think I
the,
called it Fame and Fortune, but Faith and Fortune.
that's okay, a lot of people do. Yeah, the first book is The Trouble with Love.
Yeah, those covers are awesome. They're so much fun and they reflect the characters so well. And then Stacy says that all of your books are great, but Buying Love is her favorite.
Oh, that was my first one that like I fell in love with the cover and it made me want to read it again, but I usually don't reread my books, just can't stand it. Because you
Yeah.
start finding like all the like, oh, why didn't I use this word? Or I should have changed this.
Yeah, it's hard to walk away and be like, nope, it's done. And like my kids will listen to my audiobooks. And even when I had some of my backlist made into audiobooks, I struggled to listen to them
Oh,
because there's always that editor on in my head, even as I would go, these really are good books. I'm proud of them, but I really don't want to listen to them because it's just so weird. I mean, those are people in my head. And so Mary said she's reading An Unlikely Proposal, and and she said that challenges and issues in this book are very relatable in today's society. So do you write your books thinking, okay, I want to tackle this issue, or does it kind of become more organic where you're just like, I think I want to write a heroine who has a disability and the challenges that go with that? I mean, how do you come up with those kind of cutting edge issues?
um, it depends, honestly. Like with All the More, which was in the Something Borrowed collection, I knew I wanted her to be in a wheelchair. I forget how it started. I think we were in a brainstorming session, me and the other collection authors, just talking about like what we wanted to do. And I was like, I have had a hero with a disability, but I haven't done that to a heroine. So I was like, I want to do this. And I just researched a bunch of things, partly from someone I've known in the past with similar issues, and then some of the chronic health issues I have, and I just kind of mashed them up together to create
Yeah.
her. Um, and then sometimes it just happens naturally, because the character comes in and they're usually not happy, and then I just dig around to find out like why they're not happy. So it's both.
Yeah. Well, and I think, like when I think of my Hidden Justice series, and they're dealing with some really serious issues, and that wasn't the intent. I mean, I never walked out going, I'm going to write issues books. And
Right.
my editor at the time was Amanda Bostic, and she's like, I think you're going to be our issue person. I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want to walk around with Cara writes issue books. But it was, these are the things that are catching my attention, and these are the things that are catching my heart for some reason. So like with Beyond Justice, it was immigrant kids coming across the border on their own, and that was happening at the same time as the Syrian refugee crisis, and I'm in
Right.
England getting ready to present at this academic conference, and I'm sitting there at breakfast seeing the photo of the Turkish police officer carrying the drowned toddler, and overlaying that with stories in the US about the unaccompanied minors at the border, and going, what would have to be going on inside a mother's heart to
Right.
say taking a journey like that is better than staying where you are, where you're safe? And so, I mean, that's how it comes together for me. It's like these random things that then my brain starts going, well, why and how? And then the emotions get engaged. And then, so I get that it's just that kind of that organic, random process. And sometimes it's the character steps up and says, hello, this is my thing. Um,
I
so
don't I don't think it's random though, you know? Like we're both Christian authors and it's sometimes I feel like it's just the spirit working through us.
absolutely.
Because I've had people like, they'll share a review quote from the book and I'm like, I wrote that? Like, I
Yes.
don't remember writing that, but that's a good line.
Yes. And that's one of the things, especially when I get to galleys, which is the page proof. It's the final stage before it goes to the printer. And I'll get to that stage and I've got enough distance from writing it and the macro edits and the hard work. And I'm like, oh, that's actually good. Because I've had the point where I hate the book. I'm like,
Right.
crap. I can't believe anybody's going to publish this. And then to get that distance where you can go, wait a minute, God, that's really cool. And that's part of what I love about it, is that creative partnership that it's a lot of work, but it's so amazing when you hit that point and you're like, okay, that was the Holy Spirit. That's why I love
Yes.
interacting with book clubs, because they'll pull something out. I'm like, that was in my book. You're sure that was my book you were reading, and I'm like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's
I
kind of
have the
fun.
same reactions.
So, oh, Rachel's like, I love the books you both write, and I've enjoyed all of Toni's books. I love her friendship threads, and her faith themes are always fantastic. So, yay!
Thank you.
And then Mary actually has a really good question for you. Does your family read your books or give you any input?
No. I have two boys. The youngest keeps telling me that they have no pictures in them, and he's disheartened by this. And the oldest is a teenager now, so he's like, "That's disgusting. I don't want to read anything about love."
And you're like, oh, but honey, someday you'll want this blueprint your mother has written for you on how to woo a woman.
Right? I told him, I was like, "I will get you so many ends with future girlfriends or, whatever, because you'll be like, my mom writes romance books."
Yeah. And they'll be like,
Yeah.
so that means you'll know how to romance me. This is great.
Yeah,
But
I tease him and I tell him to tell his future wife in advance that I tried. That's my disclaimer.
I did my best. That's all a mother can do. So it's kind of funny because my 12-and-a-half-year-old titled Delayed Justice. And so she owns that. She's like, I titled that book. I should get part of the royalties
That's
because I
awesome.
gave you the title for that book. But it's been fun because my girls read them. My husband's read some of my more recent ones, and we've all listened to one of them. That was really weird, listening to one of them in the car with the family. I was trying not to go, no, 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 no.
I probably would do that. So
Yeah.
I have trouble listening to audiobooks anyway, but to know like that they're your own, because I thought about doing that process for the Faith and Fortune books. Even so far, I went
Yeah.
to have the little auditions and listen to it, and I was like, this is so weird. Like they're reading my book. Like, yeah,
So would you rather have, I guess, an audiobook or a movie made of your books?
movie, totally. What about you?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, movie is definitely on the bucket list, even though I know it may not end up being what I imagine. But I think especially like Stars in the Night and some of those World War II ones would just make amazing movies. If I
Mhm.
could, I'd be like, okay, I want this person to play this one and that one to play this, then let's go. I think that would be so fun.
You
Oh,
just point them to your Pinterest board,
yes, yeah, and tag them.
right?
Please read my book because I think you'd be awesome in it. So, um, we're both like these crazy readers. We're on January 26th. And how many books have you read already this year?
20.
People are like, I read a lot. And I'm like, no, now I'm going to be like, I don't read anything compared to Miss Toni Shiloh because I'm only at 10. I've got 10 completed books, almost done with an 11th. So I've got a little bit of catching up to do. So,
Just a
what's
little
the
bit.
best book you've read this year?
Oh, it's so hard. I don't know. I'm like mentally
It's kind of
scrolling
a,
through my Rolodex.
yeah. You're like, let me
Best one.
pull up my Goodreads challenge and
I know,
I'll
right?
look at. So one of them that I read that is totally off topic, but it was a nonfiction that I really loved was Virginia Dynasty by Lynn Cheney, which looks at the first four presidents from Virginia. And
Really?
especially with the Hamilton craze, because Hamilton keeps showing up in there because of the role he played in Washington, Washington's administration and all that. It was so fun because you get this image of Thomas Jefferson. I'm like, that's not what Thomas Jefferson was like. And then just but seeing all that political interplay was kind of fun, especially
Yeah.
as we were racing towards an inauguration with all kinds of zaniness.
Yeah, zaniness is a good word for it. Yeah, my nonfiction I'm reading right now is Dream Big by Bob Goff.
Oh yeah, my husband's reading that right now. Are you enjoying it?
I am. I usually don't read nonfiction, but his voice is so engaging that I'm hooked. So that helps. And then currently I'm reading your book, Lethal Intent. I'm halfway through, so I'm excited about that. Before I read you, I finished a Regency book. I'm on a Regency kick right now. So it was The Governess. And it
Oh,
basically, have you read that one?
okay. I was like, okay, I've read a lot of books. I just realized I need to stop and go, who was the author? Because there are a lot of Regency books that have the governess in the title.
I know. What is it? Like when I went to add it to my Goodreads, I put The Governess and it's like 5 or 10 people and none of them were the author. And I'm like, oh, I have to go back and look at the author's name. And it was, I want to say her name is Ellie Hall. I
Okay,
could
then
be
I haven't
wrong.
read that one because I think Julie Clausen has one with that, and Sarah Ladd has one with the governess, and then you just kind of go through. Which actually leads me to my next question: what's one of those books that everybody says you should read that you haven't read? And before, don't hate me. I can now say I've read the first chapter.
Congratulations. Do you like it? Do you want to keep reading?
Keep reading. And the reason I pulled it out actually is one of the audiobooks I listened to earlier this month was the Jane Austen Society. And so
Was
that
that
had
good?
me kind of in this Jane Austen kick. And it was fun because it was set during World War or right after World War II. So it hit England, World War II, time era. And then Jane Austen was like, okay, I suppose I should actually read Sense and Sensibility. And then maybe I'll read Emma. I don't know. I'm glad there's only 6 books, but I'm sorry for all of you who adore Jane Austen. I think I've read Pride and Prejudice once.
Just once?
Just once. And so I'm like, okay, I need to read it again. I remember enjoying or Pride and Prejudice, but I could swear it's only been once.
I haven't read Mansfield Park.
Ooh,
That would be
that's a
my one.
chunk.
It is.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've always read voraciously since I was a kid. I've got a spiral notebook that I kept when I was like 12 and 13 of all the books I read. And there were many months I read 30 books a month. I was homeschooled. There wasn't a lot to do. But sometimes it's amazing, like the gaps in some of the classics where I just kind of skipped over them because I was reading all this other stuff. And so if Cherry Ames was a classic, I read a lot of those and Nancy Drew and stuff like that. But then I missed a few like Jane.
Nancy Drew was awesome. Her and the Hardy Boys, and then when they teamed up, Nancy
I
Drew
loved
and
when they teamed up. Those were so
yes,
fun. So
that
fun.
totally made me want her to pick Frank and get rid of Ned Nickerson.
Yeah. Okay. Get another guy who actually likes to solve crimes and
Right?
like be happy for life. You
Yeah.
can open a detective agency and live happily ever after. So tell us, yeah, we've got some thumbs up on that one. So tell us a little bit more about your book that just released today and where people can find it. And happy book birthday again. That's so fun. This has
Thank
been a
you.
good month for books.
It is. I've seen like on my Friday blog, I'm just watching all of them go to new releases. February is also like jam-packed with
February
good
is
ones.
stacked, and there are some awesome World War II novels. Christy Cambrin and Sarah Sundin. I mean, there are some amazing books coming.
I know, I'm excited. I actually have The Paris Dressmaker on my Kindle waiting for me to read it.
Okay, so when you're done with this one, jump to that one. It
Just
is
immediately.
going to win every award this year. It's going to win next year, but it'll win
Right.
every award.
Awesome. Okay, I'll do that.
I mean, I would bet money on that, and I don't bet money. I don't gamble, but I would bet money on that one.
Okay, I'm excited now. Plus, it's in Paris.
It's Paris and it's the war and it's got the art, it's got the monuments men, it's got fashion, it's got the resistance, it's got everything. It's amazing. It's amazing. And then Sarah is equally amazing. Thanks for that little World War II heart. I want to write another World War II after reading those books because they're just so good.
You should.
There are so many great World War II stories still to tell. So many. But I love seeing these wonderful, really well told stories coming out. It's awesome. Okay, but back to your book. Now that I've been gushing.
So it's an unlikely proposal. I'll hold it up so you can see it.
Such a cute cover.
I know, right? I love it. It's so great. And since it's love inspired, you can find it in Walmart, Barnes and Noble. It will officially release on ebook February 1st, but if you want it on paperback, you can go ahead and just order it. And I have all the links on my website at tonishiloh.com. So you can go there and just click.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm so excited for you. I have to actually go get it because it's out now. So I want to go get it like from the store so I could be like, keep buying or keep stocking these books. So
Yeah, I went to
I
my
know,
Walmart and it wasn't there. And I was like, no.
yeah, I know. That's always where I can remember when I had my Love Inspired Suspense coming out and you just like would kind of haunt the sections. And my kids are like, anytime we go into Meijer or Target or Walmart, I'm like, we got to walk down the book aisle. And they're like, okay, which of your friends are here now? And I'm like, oh, look, it's her book. And they're like, oh, you are such a nerd, mom. And I'm like, yes, I am. I am.
That is
So,
so me. I'll sit there and snap pictures and they're like, why? And I'm like, but I know her. You don't understand.
yeah. And I can put it on Facebook or wherever and be like, go buy this book.
Exactly.
So, if it's my book, I put my kids in the photo. If it's someone else's book, I'm like, ah. You know? So thank you so much for joining me tonight. It was so fun to chat and catch up and celebrate and talk books with you. Is there anything else you'd like to tell people before we wrap up?
No, I think you covered it all. It was fun.
Yeah, well, awesome. Thank you so much. This was a blast. Thank you to everyone who joined us and for commenting and stuff like that. It makes it so much fun. So appreciate you. Hope you all have a great night and week. And check back next week when Rachel McDaniel will be here. And then Janine Rosh is the Tuesday after that. And then Rachel Hauk the week of Valentine's Day. So got all kinds of fun author chats coming up and hope you'll join us. And thanks, Linda. Linda says we were fun. So
Awesome.
it was fun.
Thank
I
you.
really enjoyed this. So thanks so much for joining us. And I look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Okay.